windows and fire the building!
August 24th, 1814. The capital of the United States is in chaos. Smoke fills the sky. Citizens rush through the streets, desperately gathering their belongings and fleeing the city. The sound of marching boots grows louder with every passing minute. And then, something unthinkable happens. Enemy soldiers approach the most important building in America. Within hours, flames will engulf the president's residence. The very symbol of American power will be reduced to a burning shell. Today, the White House stands as one of the most recognizable buildings on Earth. But few people know that it was once captured by a foreign army and set on fire. How did the United States allow its capital to fall? Why did British troops march into Washington? And how did the White House rise again from the ashes? This is the dramatic story of the day the White House burned. By 1812, the United States was still a young nation. Although America had won its independence from Great Britain decades earlier, tensions between the two countries never truly disappeared. Disputes over trade, maritime rights, and British interference with American shipping pushed the two nations closer and closer to war. Eventually, conflict became unavoidable. The War of 1812 had begun. Many Americans believed the war would be short. They expected quick victories and a demonstration of national strength. Instead, the conflict dragged on for years. And by 1814, the situation had become increasingly dangerous. During the summer of 1814, British forces launched a major campaign along the Chesapeake Bay. Their objective was not simply military victory. They wanted to strike at America's confidence. They wanted to send a message. And there was no better target than the nation's capital. On August 24, 1814, American and British forces met just outside Washington. The battle would take place in a small town called Bladensburg. For America, this was the last chance to stop the invasion. If they failed, Washington would be left completely exposed. As the battle began, British troops pushed forward with surprising speed. American defenses quickly began to break apart. Units became separated, orders became unclear, and before long, many soldiers simply began running away. The defeat was so embarrassing that the battle later became known as the Bladensburg Races. With the American army in full retreat, nothing now stood between the British and the capital of the United States. As British troops marched toward Washington, panic spread throughout the city. Government leaders realized the capital could no longer be defended. For the first time in the nation's history, Washington faced the possibility of occupation. President James Madison was forced to leave the city. But inside the White House, one person refused to leave just yet. First Lady Dolley Madison knew time was running out. British troops could arrive at any moment, so she began saving the nation's most valuable treasures. Among them was a massive portrait of George Washington. What happened next would become one of the most legendary moments in White House history. Knowing that British troops could arrive at any moment, she worked tirelessly to save important national treasures. Documents were packed. Valuable items were removed. Most famously, she ordered the rescue of a large portrait of George Washington. The painting was carefully removed from its frame and carried to safety. Had it remained inside the White House, it likely would have been destroyed forever. Her actions would later become one of the most celebrated moments in American history. As evening approached, British troops entered Washington. There was little resistance. The city had effectively fallen. Soon, soldiers arrived at the president's house, known today as the White House. They entered the building. Some accounts claim that dinner preparations for President Madison were still visible inside. the British officers briefly explored the residence. Then, they carried out their orders. They gathered furniture. They spread combustible materials throughout the rooms. And finally, they lit the fires. At first, small flames flickered through the halls, but within minutes, the blaze intensified. Fire raced from room to room. Windows shattered from the heat. The roof began to collapse. Massive flames illuminated the night sky. Citizens watching from a distance could only stare in disbelief as the heart of their government burned before their eyes. The White House was no longer a symbol of power.
It had become a symbol of devastation. The White House was not the only target. British forces also set fire to the Capitol building, the Treasury, and several other government structures. Throughout the night, Washington burned. For many Americans, the destruction was deeply humiliating. The young nation that had fought so hard for independence was watching its capital city occupied and damaged by its former colonial ruler. By sunrise, much of Washington looked like a city shattered by war. And at the center of the destruction stood the charred remains of the White House. Then, something unexpected happened. Shortly after the fires were set, a violent storm swept across Washington. Powerful winds tore through the city. Heavy rain poured from the sky. Some eyewitnesses even reported tornado-like conditions. The storm extinguished many of the remaining fires and forced British troops to seek shelter. To some Americans, it felt like divine intervention. Others simply saw it as a remarkable twist of fate. Either way, the storm became one of the most unusual chapters in the story of Washington's destruction. When the war ended, Americans faced a difficult question. Should the capital be moved elsewhere, or should Washington be rebuilt? The answer was clear. The nation would rebuild. The same architect who designed the original White House, James Hoban, was brought back to oversee reconstruction. Workers returned, walls were repaired, rooms were rebuilt. Year by year, the White House slowly regained its former appearance. The British had burned the building, but they had failed to destroy what it represented. The White House survived, and so did the nation. Today, millions of people recognize the White House as the home of the President of the United States. It represents power, leadership, and continuity. Yet hidden behind its white walls is a story many have forgotten. A story of invasion. A story of fire. A story of resilience. Because on one summer night in 1814, America's most famous building was nearly lost forever. And from its ashes emerged a powerful reminder that even in moments of destruction, a nation can rebuild, recover, and rise stronger than before. The White House still stands today, not because it was never attacked, but because it survived.